Welcome back to another episode of the Align for Success podcast. I am Deborah Deras, your hostess with the mostest, here with another amazing and transformational guest. And today, like every week, we are here to talk about alignment. And I think it's really important that we review what is the concept of alignment. Because many people, when they think about working and being in life, think about we need to have no pain, no gain, or if you're not suffering and sacrificing, that you're not working hard enough, but not on the Align for Success program. This program is an ease and grace program. So instead of hustling, which is pushing and pulling, we are connecting with our life purpose, or what I like to call our soul's contract. And when we are on path with what we're here to do, using our divine talents, skills, and abilities, instead of having to push and crawl, and sometimes the feeling of walking through mud, we get to flow. We get to achieve success with ease and with grace. But let me tell you, I did not know that this was possible. And I had to learn the hard way. And I had so many mentors, so many coaches help me along the way. And so I created this podcast so that you don't have to learn the hard way, that you can learn from my mistakes and also learn from the successes of my mentors, my coaches, people like our guest today that inspire me by the way they're living their lives. So today we're going to have a very special topic. And that special topic is how to align for success through the power of forgiveness. That's right, forgiveness. Because when we forgive, we set ourselves free. But before we begin tonight with our special guest who has so much knowledge on this topic and so much information, you're going to be like, thanking me for introducing him to you. You're going to be sharing this with your friends. Which, speaking of sharing, I know that many of you are just getting home from work or you're getting ready for dinner. But what we need to do in order to create a world where people are on purpose, that they are having a joy, not a job, that they are aligning for success, is to share. Because when we're in the old world, we're competing and we think that from scarcity, if someone has this information that, we should keep it to ourselves. But no, not on the Align for Success program. We want to share it with as many people as possible so that we can have everyone align for success. So go ahead, if you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, press the share button. If you're listening on iTunes or Google Play or Spotify, you can go ahead and share it as well. Because did you know that we are officially live with the podcast? So you may be seeing us on YouTube and you love to have the video, but some people like to listen to podcasts while they're driving their car, while they're getting ready, while they're doing other things. Well, we are officially live on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google Play, and you could tell your friends that prefer podcasts, they can find us at Align for Success TV, all one word. Okay, Align for FOR Success TV. And when you listen on Apple, write a review. We'd love to have that so we can have more people aligning so that they can achieve their goals, their visions, and their dreams. And by the way, if this is your first time here joining us on the Align for Success podcast and you're on the live stream, guess what? You can comment. You can ask questions because we can see your comments and we can see your questions and feature them. So feel free. Hi, Jules. Hi, friend. I was just thinking about you. So see, Jules is modeling how to comment. Thank you. Thank you, my wonderful friend. So that you can be engaged and involved. This isn't just a passive listening thing. I want you to listen, hear, and then take inspired action because today's guest is going to rock your world. I'm telling you. And his name is Mr. Reverend Gregory Toole. And he is the senior minister of the Center for Spiritual Living in Bakersfield and the Antelope Valley. Ooh, it's hot to handle over there, I bet you. He is passionate about conscious and authentic relationships and communication tools that create them. Don't we all need that? He's a facilitator of conflict transformation, and he is here as our special guest to help us to align for success. Please help me welcome Mr. Reverend Gregory Toole. Yeah! Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. I'm inspired already just listening to your introduction.
Right? Right? Well, you are super inspirational. I have to tell you, I have been involved with many centers for spiritual living and unity churches. And in seeing how active you are on social media is very inspiring and refreshing because you give us practical tools and techniques to align. And I just want to say, on behalf of everyone that gets to watch and listen to you, thank you. Thank you for that. Because there was one day I was
Oh,
having a call.
it's a labor of love.
Right? It is a labor, like this show is a labor of love. You know, you never know when you're going to say something right when someone needs to hear it. And I'd love for you to share for those people that are listening, like Jules and others that don't know you, how you got started on your path as a reverend and got into ministerial school.
Well, that's a really cool journey that I've been on because I had a corporate career, which was very successful, and I learned so much, and something started to stir in me that started to call me onto a different path, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I had to pay attention, and so the cut stepped into a center for spiritual living, and I was home right away, and I just jumped into every class, everything I could get my hands on to learn about this empowering teaching called Science of Mind. And I became a practitioner, licensed practitioner, supporting others on the journey. And I began to ask in my meditation, so what's next? And the word minister came up. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. Of course, that's not correct. That must be my ego. That must just be my ego saying something. So I sat down again and meditated again and asked, so what am I to be doing? And the word minister wouldn't go away. So I said, well, this is ridiculous. I'm not getting anywhere with this. And so I left that alone. I said, I'm not going to ask this question anymore because I'm not getting any good answers. And then people started to come up to me and say, you're going to be a minister, aren't you? And I said, no. Where did you get that idea? And it was so out on the outside, out on the inside that I said, okay, fine, then I'll just be a minister. And the moment I said that, it was like, well, of course you will. Of course you will.
Oh, wow.
So it caught me off guard.
And I hear a lot of people saying that like they get a call, right? And they hear that call to go to ministerial school. And one of the questions that many people have for you, because I can telepathically hear their questions, is how do you distinguish the difference between your ego self-talk and your calling of spirit that's calling you to something deeper and higher? How do you know?
Yes. Well, thank you. That's a great question. And at that time, I really couldn't distinguish, which is why I was like, it's not making any sense. But now there's a really subtle quality when it's my divine intuition speaking to me. It's very subtle and very soft and very gentle and very heartfelt. Like my heart feels expansive and my whole being feels expansive and lights up. Whereas when it's just those other voices in me that it's more heavy and more labored and even maybe a little bit, so I go for what feels really expansive and it feels like it really opens me. And it's kind of like this, like whole body inside of me that like I can feel it, all my cells that yes. And when it's the other one, it's like my eyes are glazing over. My mind's trying to convince me that it's a good thing, but my eyes are glazing over and I'm shrinking. So that's for me how it works.
I love that explanation. I have a similar experience when it's from my higher self. Usually it doesn't make any logical sense, like when I was told to quit my job, but it was such a loving voice and a persistent voice that I could not stop moving forward and just learning what is the next inspired action to take. I love that.
Mm.
Yeah, and I know it because it is that expansive state of consciousness where it's my ego. It feels more contracted or it feels more heavy because it's fear based, right? It's like, well, I have to do this if I want health insurance. I need a day job, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. The last time I had that experience of trying to listen, really trying to listen to that more ego self. I was my last job in the corporate world, and I was on an interview, and I answered the questions perfectly. And the man at the end of the interview said to me, he said, you totally can have this job if you want it, but it doesn't seem like you want it. And I tried to convince
Ah,
myself that I really did. And when I went home, I was like, you know what? He's right. I don't want this at all. But it was saying, well, benefits are good, the salary is good, all things that my rational mind said, but my heart was contracting and my eyes were
oh,
literally glazing over. I literally was glazing over, and it was like, no, I can't do it. It makes total logical sense, but I can't do it.
Oh, that's wow. And that's the interesting thing. It's because our vibes do not lie. Like the words can say it, but the vibe, the energy, and he could feel that and really saved you from yourself, right? I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
So
yes,
so
yes.
how long have you been out of the corporate world and doing your own conscious communication business?
Hmm. I left the corporate world in 1995,
Oh,
and
wow.
the conscious communication has kind of always been there, but it's only been there in a real focused and intentional way for less than 10 years. Yeah, but it's kind of always been there, and then finally it crystallized, and it was like, oh, of course, this is what I'm so passionate about. And no one teaches us communication at all, or relationships or communication. No one really teaches us that, right? It's like we take all these other classes, math, reading, history, all kinds of things, and yet one of the most important things, which is how do we get along with other people, we really don't get any lessons in that.
Wow. Yeah, what would the world be like if, like, in preschool and kindergarten, every year we had a class on conflict resolution and compassionate communication? Can you talk to us about what that is and how it helps people?
Yes, yes. Well, one of the things that got me on this, worked in a lot of different sectors. I worked in the corporate sector. I worked in the nonprofit sector. I worked in the education sector. I've worked, in the church, you know, whatever we call that. It's not an industry, but the church sector. And everywhere I went, when I watched people succeed or not succeed, almost always it was about how they related to other people and how they got along with other people
Mm.
and how they were able to resolve conflict. Almost never, when people failed at their jobs, was it because they weren't competent with the work itself. Including
Ah,
ministers, including ministers. Almost
right.
days it came down to relationship and communication. And I thought, we need to really learn this. We need to really get this. And it
Right.
was something that I wouldn't say came easy to me necessarily, because I've had my own challenges, struggles at times with relationships and communication, but it was something I could see really clearly, and I could see the
Ah.
pathway forward in terms of how it could look.
I love it. And I love that you said your your passion was the leader of where you were to go in your career. Because I truly believe my first company,
Mm-hmm.
I left my government job in 1999, around the same time as you. And I had a coworker that said he was going to live his passion when he retired at 65. And I was 25 at that time. And I was like, I can't imagine 40 years of being in a cubicle doing something that I did not enjoy. I wouldn't make it. I'm like, I want passionate
Yeah.
living now. And that was the name of my first coaching company. But you're right. Everyone that would come to me, no matter what their challenge they said it was, underneath everything it was a challenge in communication and not knowing how to be able to get their needs met, how to speak up when there was a conflict. So can you define what is conscious communication and how people can use it?
Yes, conscious communication to me begins with self-awareness, because so often we're not talking about what's really going on. So
Right.
often we've been taught all kind of strategies, like strategies to get what we want, like things like how to influence
Ah,
people, how to get people to say yes. So we have all these
ah,
things that put us out of touch with our authenticity and in what creates a relationship. Because if I convince you to do something that you don't really want to do, but I get you to say yes,
right.
somewhere along the road, that's not really going to build a relationship. You're going to resent me, right?
Right.
I actually had the experience. I actually had the experience of someone who was in sales, and we had a meeting, and they totally convinced me to do all these things. And I went home and I said, the heck did I just agree to? And fortunately, I had the presence of mind to call the person back and say, I'm sorry, I know I agreed to those things, but I don't agree to any of those things, you know? And so conscious communication is really where we are authentic and we're not trying to uh, manipulate people. We realize that similar to your points in this show, like everyone can win, and let's lift up everyone. Let's find a win-win here. And if it's not a win-win, then to go find someone with whom it is a win-win. If this product that I'm selling is not good for you, could I just say, I don't think this is a match for you, and because there are lots of people, if it's a good product, there are plenty of people for whom it is a good match. So let me go find the people for whom it is a good match. And so conscious communication is really being authentic and moving from integrity and moving from being aware of what's going on within ourselves, right? And so, let's just say I'm in a work relationship and I'm angry about something, right? The typical way that gets handled in society projects it onto the other person, either directly or we go tell our friends, I'm angry. This person
Right.
did this, they did this. I'm so angry. But in communication, we realize there's something arising in me called anger. And it's really not about that other person. It's about something in me. And we use that to heal and to grow and to learn about ourselves so that now I don't necessarily have to react to it. Maybe the person did do something that wasn't very nice or wasn't,
Right.
but I don't have to have that level of reaction. I can realize, oh, that's stirring up from my childhood when my mother or my father or whatever used to do that, and now that's getting triggered, and let me heal that old wound so that I can show up whole, right? And then I can be showing up authentically. Tell someone, I could literally tell someone, I'm feeling angry now because I've had this experience all my life and this is getting triggered right now, without pointing the finger at them and saying it's your fault that I'm angry right now. Whatever it is I'm feeling right now. Maybe I'm feeling great joy right now. And I could also express that, like, wow, when you say that to me, I feel so much joy, right? But so often we're not in touch with our inner experience. So it's hard to connect with another person.
Yes. I love that. In fact, I don't know if you know, the Align from this podcast is an acronym, and the A is for awareness. And I have a little saying that I always say, TGI, thank God I'm awake, aligned, and aware. Because when we are aware of something,
Mm,
we can shift it. But when we are in blame, then we're in victimhood and we're disempowered. So
yeah,
the tools that you're mentioning give us back that empowerment, because when we, and this is where I got so much benefit from your Facebook Live. By the way, I am going to put his Facebook at the bottom here. So make sure you follow Reverend Gregory on Facebook because he does these amazing Facebook lives. And there was one day where somebody did something allegedly to me to upset me, right? And I listened to yours and you're like, no, they're mirrors. Instead of being upset with them, thank you. It's like what Reverend Michael would say, like it's being revealed to be healed, that they're triggering you to be that master teacher because there's that wound needs to be up and in your awareness so that you can release it to be freer, to be on your purpose. So instead of being angry and reacting, your tools enable us to transmute that energy so that we can heal it. But how do we heal these triggers? Right? What are some tools that we
Right.
can use to heal them? So now it's not their fault. We take responsibility, but we don't want to beat ourselves up. What can we do now with that awareness?
Yes. One of the greatest things we can do, and so much of what we've learned or been socialized or things we've internalized tell us the opposite. But one of the greatest things we can do is to befriend our feelings. Befriend our
Befriend
emotions,
our
befriend our
feelings.
feelings, and
Yes.
not only befriend, but actually do something radical. Actually feel them. Actually fully
Ah,
feel our feelings. We've been taught many times that feelings are like, oh, if you're emotional and all of this, oh, it's like a negative thing. But
right,
similar to something you said earlier, our feelings don't lie. Our feelings are so honest and they have
right,
so much information for self-awareness, right? Like if I'm feeling angry right now, my mind might I have no reason to feel angry right now, but what I'm feeling is anger. So I need to look into that, right? I need to, instead of trying to push it down and use my mind to say I should not feel that, I need to
right.
embrace that, welcome that, fully feel it. And in fully feeling it, for one, I'm being present, and in being present starts to reveal itself to me because I'm not resisting it. I'm being present to it and I'm welcoming it. And it starts to reveal like what it's about. And I might even ask myself that question, like, oh, wow, what is that? What is that about that I'm feeling right there? I might even identify where I'm feeling it in my body so I can get even more in touch with it, feel it fully, and just be present to it and see what it might reveal. And then the other beauty of fully feeling something is it's just energy. And if we fully feel it, we allow
Mm.
the energy to move. And when the energy moves, it just passes through us. And now it no longer has to live in us as something that starts to become a blockage of energy. So there's beauty in that, right? So now other thing is the self-awareness piece. So now that I become aware of what that is, now I have authority with myself, right? Now I don't have to be swayed by, well, this person said this, so now I'm all upset, or this person
Right.
did this, so now I'm happy. It's like, oh, I'm watching those waves come through. I'm noticing what it's about. I have great self-awareness. I allow it to pass through me, and now I can make very conscious choices instead of reactionary choices, right? Because sometimes the person that upsets me the most might be the person that I need to really talk to and gravitate toward, but because I think hate me, then I'm going to move away. But the reality is that something they triggered in me that if I see what that is, it's the greatest gift I could ever have. It's like,
Right.
oh, there's something in me that needs attention. Now let me give attention to that, see what the information is, and then release it. And now, in fact, I have a great story about that because there were two people who introduced me to this teaching called Science of Mind. One of the people was my teacher. That's not the most interesting. The other person was on a board with me that I served on, and we did not get along at all. Every meeting, I thought, gosh, I know I'm just gonna have a battle with this person. She is one of the people who introduced me to this teaching.
Oh, wow.
And it was just divine grace because we ended up at a party of a common friend and we began to talk and we began to say, wow, like we're both friends with Roy. What was it about us that, wow, we were just constantly fighting? And what we learned is we made up stories about each other that were totally not. I made up a story about her. I thought this is the toughest person I've ever met in my life. I thought this person is just so tough. I don't even know if I can handle myself. She's just like gonna bowl over me. She's so tough. She told me when when I really got to talk with her, she said, I went home and cried after every meeting. That just totally blew
Oh,
my mind, because my idea of her was totally the opposite of who she
right.
was. And so there was that. But then there was also the gift of the person who I thought, boy, if I can just get her out of my life, I would be so much more happy. She's one of two people who introduced me to this path that's going to change my life and become my life.
Wow.
So sometimes people
Wow.
that were resisting just because of what's coming up are really a great gift for us.
Like the master teachers. Yeah. I love that. I really
Yes.
appreciate your talking about the process of feeling your emotions because I will tell you, when I first started the path of becoming a practitioner, I I thought that I just needed to always be high consciousness and always be high vibration. And I thought, oh, if I go through sadness, which during practitioner training, I ended up going through a divorce, losing my house, a bankruptcy or foreclosure, accident, like everything. Just they say when you're on a path of spiritual transformation, put on your seatbelt because things that are not the structures that need to fall away will fall away, and everything like the thing hit the fan, let me tell you. And it wasn't until I studied the teachings of Panache Desai. I don't know if you are a fan of Panache Desai or read him, but
Yes.
he
Yes.
said something
Mm.
that changed. It was like emotional freedom. No, 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 that wasn't his book. I can't remember the name of his book, but he did a talk on Facebook like you, and he said that emotions are just energy in motion, and they're being revealed so that we can allow it to be healed. And in that moment when I was crying, I was like, I understood when my friend said, you don't always have to be on. You don't always have to be happy. You don't, even they call it like a spiritual bypass. You don't have to go right into Byron Katie
Yes.
and doing the work. You have permission to feel that anger. Where, like you said, feel the feeling. Where is it in the body? And what I didn't know, which is, I'm so glad you're reminding me because I need to hear this again, is I thought once I felt the anger, then I would be an angry person. Or once I felt the sadness, I would be a sad person. I didn't realize that because no one taught us in school that emotions pass through like a cloud in the sky. I thought they would become my identity and suddenly I'd be angry or sad or, you know? So that's such an aha
Yes.
moment.
Yes. I was leading a workshop and a man told me when I talked about feeling all your feelings, he said, if I feel my anger, it'll kill me.
Oh,
And yeah, and we began to talk about that. I said, no, actually, it's the
the
opposite. If you
opposite,
keep on
right?
pushing down your anger, that might kill you.
Exactly. Or pushing down your anxiety because you either explode or implode, right? You either get
Yeah.
anxious or depressed or aggressive, right?
Yes.
Wow.
We
It's like,
forget. We,
go ahead.
yes, we forget that we were created by an infinite intelligence. The body and our whole our whole design is so amazing. And so why would we be given emotions just as something that's going to annoy us and aggravate us and something that we have to sort of try to get rid of, right? These emotions are, I grew up, in a household where we really didn't express emotion. So
Right.
I thought, gosh, emotions aren't something I'm supposed to feel, only to find out, similar to what you just shared, only to find out emotions have been one of the most important guideposts to me on the spiritual journey because they're so honest. My mind can convince me of all kinds of things. My mind can
It's
convince
true.
me that's great, everything. I'm happy, even though my body screaming, oh no, this is not, you're not happy at all. You're going in the wrong direction here. The body is screaming, but now when I listen to the body and my emotions and that feeling nature, the heart, oh my goodness, it never steers me wrong. I just, it's like that old game we used to play, hot cold, when someone had to guess where something was hidden, and you'd say, as
Yes,
the
I used to
person
play
got closer,
that.
you'd say warmer, warmer, and then when they were moving away from it, you say colder, colder. It's like that, right? It's like we feel into this and we start to feel, oh, as I move in this direction, oh yeah, this is expensive. And then, oh, as I move, oh wow, this is contracting. So we can literally
Mhm.
feel our way into what is us.
I love it. Oh my God, I can't believe you know that game. You must be in my generation. Nobody knows that because
Somewhere
they're
in
like,
there.
what are you talking about? Is that a video game? I'm like, no, it's not a video game. We used to just imagine games when I was a kid. I love it. My
Yeah.
one of my friends and coaching clients, Christina, says, if only these were the life skills we should have been taught in school. Imagine. It's like emotional intelligence 101. Be aware, self-aware. Because when you're
Yeah.
self-aware of how you're triggered, you're more empathetic and compassionate. It's really these tools have helped me to understand when other people are upset with me, then I realize, oh, it's not really about me. I
Yeah.
must have triggered something in them and not to
Yeah.
react to their reaction.
Yes, 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 absolutely. It's helpful, right? In that, in not having to personalize things, and then we can even help others because if we're in touch with our emotion, we can say to them, "It seems like you're feeling angry right now," and they might not even realize that. They might say, "No, I'm not." And we'll say, "Well, it seems like your face is turning red. Your,
Your
your
eyes are
body
dilated.
posture, right?" And we can like help each other, not in a blaming way, but in a loving, compassionate way. We can help each
Right.
other get in touch with our emotions and make emotions okay for each other. Make it okay. Like if some like people when they cry often they'll say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm No, you don't have to be sorry for crying.
Right.
Like you're experiencing emotion. That's okay.
Yeah, and it just also depends how you were brought up and also gender roles. Like in our house, kids were supposed to be quiet, and do no crying and just be quiet, and it's like those emotions get shut down. And I think it's so liberating and there's so much freedom in your right here and right now, even if someone's listening, that if for the first time they realize that their emotions are guideposts, that they're indicators. I love how you said our body is infinitely intelligence, and why would we have this if they weren't here like as a compass or as a guide to help us? Super powerful.
Yes.
Super powerful. So let's talk about my favorite second favorite topic besides conscious communication, which is forgiveness. Because when people
Oh, yes.
Yes, when people experience an upset, right? The common instinct as humans is to go into anger or seemingly justifiable resentment. Talk to us about the power and forgiveness and why it's so important when we're aligning for success.
Where thank you, Deborah. Where I've come to with forgiveness is a very simple way of looking at forgiveness, which is first of all to recognize that we're this field, we're walking, moving a field of energy, and what is natural for us and what is aligned for us and what allows us to be our most fully expressed authentic self is when that field of energy is filled with love. That's truly
Ah,
what makes the world go round. That's truly what fuels everything with love. So that field of energy that we are, the only thing, our great responsibility is to make sure the only thing in that field of energy is love. So when we start to realize that, it gives forgiveness a whole different context because so often we're asking with forgiveness, well, does this person deserve my forgiveness, or but this person might have really done something wrong, or all
right?
of that true. But the reality is I am responsible for this field of energy that is my
Mm.
space, that is my aura, that is my life and being. And my responsibility is to make sure there's nothing but love flowing here because that's going to serve me to be able to give my gifts in the greatest way. And if there's anything other than love, it's going to be a blockage. Anything of
So beautiful.
blockage. So the question becomes, yeah, the question becomes, do I want any blockage in my field of energy? It is not
Heck no.
does this person deserve it or does this person do it's like, do I want to be walking around empowered and that I am, or do I want sucking my energy field and resentment and holding on to anger and holding things against people? That creates blockages in our energy field, which is why there's that famous phrase that says, you know, someone or unforgiveness is like drinking poison and thinking it's going to hurt the other person, you know. It's like we're drinking the poison. So when we drink the
Exactly.
poison, it's hurt us. When we put things in our energy field, unlike love, it hurts us. It doesn't do anything to the other person.
Yeah, they're fine. Doesn't affect them at all. Oh my God, I almost started
Yeah.
tearing up when you were talking about the field of love because when you said it, I felt it. I felt it. Like I felt, wow, it was
Mm.
just so beautiful because that is where you are living, moving, and having your being from a field of love. And that's probably why I was aligned to connect with you because of that. And that we all have that invitation. It's not just a Reverend Gregory thing, it is an everyone thing, but it is our choice. And what I loved what you said because I was like, but what about that person that actually did something wrong to us? Don't they deserve a little bit of a payback? I heard a friend yesterday saying she had broken up with someone and she was getting a revenge body. I'm like, is that the kind of body you want? A revenge body or a self love body? And she said she had started off her weight loss for revenge, but as she started dropping 10 pounds, 20 pounds, it became not against him, but for her, a loving practice for
Yes.
her to eat healthy. Wow. Oh my, it literally
Yes.
tears me up to feel that love that we want to have it all and give it all.
Yes. And everyone's on their journey, right? Right? We know that
Right.
everyone is on their journey, and we have all done things, right? It's not like we have to point the finger at certain people like that person did this, and we have all done things that are harmful to others. We've all done
Yes.
things that are hurtful to others. We've all said things that aren't the highest thing we could say. We've all done
Right.
things that aren't the highest thing we could do, and we could judge and say, well, this person did something way worse than what I did. But in reality, essentially, we all have had those human shortcomings. So
Right.
it's kind of doesn't even make sense to go down that route, aside from the fact that it won't serve us in the least. It just totally will not serve us. There's no good purpose it will serve for us to have anything in our field of energy that is not love, and having love fill our field of energy and constantly cultivating that and opening our hearts and being present to life, just keeping our hearts open in every situation and everything. We're changing the whole world. Love is the most powerful thing we could offer. We think that our resentment is going to be powerful because and our anger is going to be powerful, and I'm going to take that anger and that resentment and that's going to be powerful. But love transmutes, transforms, and sends all of that. I can't tell you how many situations I personally have walked into where I could have gone that other route, but I know that I want to be love and I want my field to be love. And it's amazing how the results of that, it's actually practical. It's not just great myth of like, oh, yes, I want to have love flowing in my field.
Right.
Love, oh my goodness, it's irresistible. It's irresistible. It
It's
draws people to us. It
palatable.
draws situations. Yes, it draws prosperity to us. It creates
Yes.
health. It creates health in the
Yes.
body. Our body is just this flowing with health, right? It's the most powerful thing we could do is to just filled with and allowing love to be the only thing flowing us could do.
That is such a good point because it really does create that health and that vibration. And it's going back to what we were talking about before about how vibes don't lie. Like there's certain people, they may not say that they're resentful about anybody, but you can feel it. Where there's other people, I got to meet
Yeah.
Don Miguel Ruiz, the author of the Four Agreements, and he gave me a hug, and I felt like I had been bathed in holy water. Like it was just like, oh my God, he's just so full of unconditional, compassionate, empathetic love. And like Amma, the saint, when she does the hugs, like that field of love that's not just an esoteric, woo, airy fairy thing. It literally will bring you more health, more money, better relationships, everything you could possibly want. But how do we forgive? So I know the practice
Yes.
I do Ho'oponopono, but what do you recommend for people that are listening that have no idea? So now they know they need to be in a field of love. Now that they know they need to forgive because they don't
Yes.
want to, what do they do?
Yes. My practice is really simple. For one, again, so we don't want to do the spiritual bypass. So when
Right.
someone does something and anger arises in us, we don't want to be like, oh, I heard on that program that I'm only supposed to have love. So anger, no, 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 get out of here, anger. No, we don't want to
Uh,
do that. That will take us
right.
backward.
Right.
Right. So we want to stay with the feel the feeling, and then it arises and we feel it, we be present to it, right? And we get the
Right.
information that it contains, which usually means it's connecting into my pain body, as Eckhart Tolle calls it. It's connecting into some
Ah,
unhealed stuff from my past. So now I get
right.
to see that, I get to grow from that, I get to learn, I get to have greater self-awareness from it. But now because I fully felt it, it passes through me. See,
Mm,
it's not that things don't, when we're full of love, that other things don't pass through us. But the important thing is they pass through us, right? So our
right.
field is never our field is never clogged up with, right? We feel
Right.
that it arises, we feel it, we be present to it, we let it pass through us. Then we bring love into that space. And how do we bring love into that space? My favorite way to do that, because sometimes we might find it hard, like if we have some emotion like that, or it's connected to a person and that person just brings
Right.
up things for us. So what I like to do is have a few people or beings, like cats, for example, or a baby or a grandchild or a niece or a nephew, I have such unconditional love for, that I couldn't
Okay.
imagine anything but love for them. No matter what they did, I would just be loved, because I just have such unconditional love. They could do something and I'm not angry with them in the least. I'm just like, oh, let me love you some more. Like, don't do that, but let me love you some more. Right.
Right.
So now I've got the love flowing. Right now I've got the love flowing, and also that allow that, like, let me open my heart even further. Like, I got the love flowing. I know where love exists in me. I know where love originates in me. So now this is just a trick, really, because once we know where love flows from in us, then we don't even need that little parlor trick. Now we can just go to that place where love flows and just let it flow. Right. So now that I know in my body and my being where love flows from, now I send that love to all the places where the anger was before, where the resentment was before, in my
Oh.
being. In my being, I fill my being with all this love. And then when my being's filled with love, then I just send the love out to everyone else, including the person who I might have thought did me wrong. Right. And this is a
Oh.
practice, right? Because at first the mind says, no, don't do that. They don't deserve that. Don't give
Right.
them that. But then when I get the higher awareness, that love filling up my being is going to be the greatest thing I can for myself, and it's going to be the greatest thing I can do for the world. Then there's no part of me that wants to be anything else. And so no matter what the mind is saying, let the love to flow to the mind as well. Let the love flow to those thoughts that want to say no, no, no. Let love flow there too, so that everywhere just love is flowing, just love is flowing, and let love transform us. Let love transmute us. And Michael Singer, who wrote The Untethered Soul,
I
this
love
is
that
very
book.
similar to the process he
Favorite
describes
book.
in there. Yeah, yeah, he describes that same process in there, where I think he calls it the fire of your heart. Let the
Oh,
fire
I
of
gotta
your
go
heart
back.
transform these things. Yeah,
Okay.
let the fire of your heart transform these things, right? So let that emotion come up, feel it, be present to it, and then let the fire of your heart transform it. Because love transforms everything into itself. Everything we allow to be infused with love becomes love.
Everything that we allow to be infused with love becomes love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say the
Because love is
steps
really at
one more
the
time.
Yeah, yeah. So we fully feel what we're feeling. We're feeling some
Okay.
anger, we're feeling some resentment, whatever. We fully feel that, because to do otherwise is going to get stuck in our bodies. It's going to get it stuck in our field of energy, and we don't do that. So we
And
fully
then it
feel
shows
it,
up in
so that
headaches or stomach problems or digestive problems. It shows up in the body if we don't let it out, right?
right, if we don't let it out, exactly. Yes, yes. So we fully feel it, and in
Mhm.
fully feeling it, it naturally moves through us. If we really fully feel it, it can't stay. It's just energy.
Ah,
So if you create a release for energy, it just dissipates, right? It's only if we're
fascinating.
pushing it down that it starts to create a blockage, right?
Oh,
That I
cool.
literally like welcome it. We embrace it. It's like, okay, I'm going to fully feel this, and I'm going to look for where it, oh, there it is right there in my side, or right there in my abdomen, or right there I'm going to fully feel it. Right. I'm going to get into it. I'm going to fully feel it and let it pass through me. And I'm going to be present to it because it might have some information for me. So I'm going to welcome it, and I'm going to be present to it. And then I'm going to gather, information it has. I'm not going to analyze it. I'm just going to be present to it and observe it. Like if you were observing something happening in front of your house, you're observing it, you oh, I see what's happening. Okay, that person got upset because of that, and then they went over and talked to that other person. You're just observing what's happening, and then it reveals what it's about. Like that emotion reveals what it's about. So now we have the information, so we're fully present to it, and then we just allow love to flow into all those places. Any place in us where there's still any residue whatsoever, or the place where we were feeling resentment before, or anger before, or jealousy before, we allow love to flow into those places, and we just keep that love flowing. And then we don't stop there. It's not like, okay, now I've forgiven this person, now I love. No, this is a practice that we learn that I'm going to live there. I'm going to live there. And maybe when we're living there, then the resentment and anger never enters in, because everything coming out from us is love, and so transforming everything that's in and everything that's going out, and everything in our experience. So that's the real goal, is to learn to live in that all the time.
Right. And I think the key thing that you said that neutralizes the energy is we don't start with the person we had the upset with. We start with the nephew or the cat or the dog that we have infinite unconditional love for. And then we, from there, work it out.
Yes. And those are the training wheels, because that's the way that we touch with, where does love flow from in my being? But once we learn that, right, and we begin to just be able to be in touch with that, right, like, oh, now I can see exactly where love flows from. Now we can just let love flow anytime. Then we can live from there, letting love flow. And that's all of us. Our reason for being here is to love ourselves. And really, when we realize there's no separation, it's not there really is you and then me. It's not like you really truly are separate from me. So I'm just loving that part of me that is Deborah Deras. If I'm having a challenge with you, which I know I never would, I'm just loving that part of me that is. It's not really like you're from me, right? So it's like there's a part of me that is you, and that part of me somehow I'm having a hard time loving right now.
And the fascinating part, everybody, because like Reverend Gregory says, we're not separate, that as soon as you forgive that person, they'll call you or they'll text you, just like out of the blue. They'll just show up and you'll be like, oh my gosh. And because there's no attachment there, there's no energy there, there's no spark there. It's like you've neutralized that energy, and they feel it. They feel it. That practice of neutralizing that energy.
Yes, and often in my experience, oftentimes, not only that, they'll even come back and say, I am so sorry for what I did. Like usually we couldn't get an apology from a person by our anger and our resentment. Like, you owe me an apology. I demand an apology. And we're really what we get the apology. But somehow with this process, and like you said, without even calling the person, reaching out to them, suddenly they show up, and they might even say, you know what, I was so wrong and I owe you an apology. And that may not always happen, but I can't tell you how many times
there's a proxy
that when I yes.
I've had other people apologize me during that.
Yes. Absolutely. Love is so powerful. We don't realize that, because it just sounds like an airy-fairy statement. Love is powerful. Love. It sounds really airy-fairy. We don't realize that that's nature. That's who we are. We forget that that's who we are. We are love. It's not like I'm trying to be something I'm not. It's not like, oh, how can I be more loving? how can I find this love I'm supposed to be? No, that really is who we are. That's like natural for us, but we've learned all kinds of things that make us feel that that's unnatural. We have
Right.
like strategies to defend ourselves and protect ourselves and have to and survive, that sort of thing. And so we forget, oh my goodness, if I just allowed love to flow, I'd be in the flow of life, and grace, ease, like you said at the beginning of this program, that it's
Mhm.
about ease and grace, not about strain and strain. Well, love really creates that path. Love creates that path.
Yes. Yes, yes. And it allows, and the wonderful thing about alignment is this practice of being even more loving is the inner work for the outer success. And one of the things you said, which I think is so important for someone type A personality like me, I don't know if you know, I wrote a book called Confessions of an Adrenaline Addict because I used to think that my whole value was based on what I did and what I accomplished, and was always trying to prove to my dad that I was good enough. Look, I did this, I got this accomplishment, I did. And if what you said was our true purpose here is not about money, it's not about a job, it's not about outside things. It's to be loved and loved, to share love, to give love. That is, if that was your every day you woke up in the morning and said, "How can I be love? How can I be more loving?" What would your day be like? Try it.
pretty pretty fantastic, right?
Yeah, or every night, what if you said,
Yeah.
"Who can I forgive?" Or how can I forgive myself? I know when I was very involved in Agape, I facilitated a ministry called Freedom Path that was like an 11-step program where you practice, prayer and meditation, and it was for people that were looking for an alternative in recovery. And I was partnered with my ex-boyfriend to co-facilitate the ministry. And it was like we weren't even talking. And that doing the ministry together, it was such a practice of self-love. And just recently, like 2 weeks ago, we haven't seen each other in like years. He moved next door to me. And we have nothing but love. That because of all the forgiveness work that, and just every time we would resist and push away, the universe would put us back. No, here's your opportunity again.
Yeah.
So if you ever have opportunities with a neighbor or a boss or a significant other, it's your opportunity to practice this forgiveness and being even more loving. Oh my goodness, you changed our lives today. Thank you, Reverend Gregory. This was super awesome. Stacy's giving you the
Oh,
thumbs
you're very welcome.
up. She's loving it. Christina's loving it. Jules is loving it. Everybody that's listening on the replay is loving it. And what they want to know, I know because I can read their minds, is how can they stay in touch with you? How can they continue to learn from you and be inspired and transformed?
Yes, my Facebook page is one place where I give a talk every Wednesday at 12:30 Pacific
Oh,
time. A
oh,
very
every
short talk, like a
Wednesday.
little song. Every Wednesday at 12:30. Also, I speak every at 10:30 a.m. And you can go to either Center for Spiritual Living Bakersfield or Center for Spiritual Living Antelope Valley.com. They're one of those, and find the information about how to get on the Facebook Live page there and hear that talk. And my own website, of course, gregorytoole.com. You can get in touch with me directly. And I'm always teaching classes. I'm always giving talks. So anyone who wants to, and also one-on-one coaching as well. So anyone who wants to be in touch with me,
Oh,
this is my passion. And something I'm sure you relate to also, Deborah, is when some passion, we have all kinds of energy to support
I
people,
know.
right? We don't
It's
we,
true.
we don't have those limits that we have when we're doing something that's just a drudgery. Then it's like, oh,
Right.
I can't take anymore. So people say to me, well, I know you're so busy, I'm sure you don't have time for me. I was like, oh no, I have plenty of time for you.
I
It's
love
it's
it.
it's amazing how that works, that there's always time. There's always time when we're doing what's aligned and what's our passion is.
Because you have a joy, not a job, and you live in the field of love. So you're not wasting time on, unforgiveness. You have so much more
Yeah.
energy when you don't have resentment, right? That's another thing. If you want to know how does Reverend
Yes.
Gregory get energy? How do I get energy? Forgiveness, right? It's an
Yes.
energy booster.
Yes.
And for those of you listening that are not seeing, it's www.gregorytoole, Toole, facebook.com, and I'll drop the Facebook links for the Center for Spiritual Living Antelope Valley and the Center for Spiritual Living Bakersfield every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. and every
No, 10:30,
Wednesday he's
10:30,
10:30.
10:30 Pacific time. Yeah.
10:30 Pacific time, and through the wonder of technology, you could be anywhere in the world and join us. 10:30
Yeah.
Pacific time, and then Wednesdays 12:30, and it's like 5-10 minutes, right?
It's somewhere like between 5 and 10 minutes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. You would be so surprised. It's like eating a full meal. How much meat he puts into that 10 minutes. So now that I know the time, I'm going to schedule it in my calendar and see it in my life. That's my phrase. So that I'll be with you every Wednesday. So I can get that
Thank
midday
you.
pick me up, that field of love. I just want to say on behalf of everyone, we love you. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for giving us these priceless, precious tools, like Christina said, that are just life changing, that we wish we had in elementary school, because it will allow us to grow in our business, in our careers, in our personal lives, and to fulfill our soul's contract, which I now know is to be loved. Thank you so
Thank you, Deborah.
much.
Pleasure being with you.
Oh, and it's my pleasure. And thank you
Blessing.
all for tuning in. I want to say, everyone's saying thank you in the comments here. Thank you. I appreciate you joining us. We are here in July every single Monday. Starting in August, I want to let you know we're going to have a new time or a new day. It's going to be a transformational Tune In Tuesday, because we're going to move back to our regular day, which is Tuesdays. For some reason, when I started this in April, I moved it to Monday. But for people, I did a survey. Everybody likes Tuesdays better. So we will be back to Tuesdays in August. But catch us here next week, because we have a very special guest, the artist and creator of Le Petit Prince, Troy Guya, all the way from Seattle, Washington, is going to be with us. And if any of you are feeling any struggle with your ego that's not your amigo, you can grab at my website. I have a video, 4 steps to let go of your ego and to tune in to your higher self, your inner voice, so that you can align for success, because I am here to support you to create that life of success with ease and grace. Let's all thank Reverend Gregory. Make sure you're following him on Facebook, that you connect with him, and that if you need him for coaching, any issues through a resentment, through a forgiveness, trust me, it will improve your health. It'll improve your bank account. It will improve your mood, your energy. He's amazing. Thank you so much. And remember that with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Ciao. Bye. Thanks, everyone. Victor says, hey, thank you. Bye. Oh, that's